So you have a vinyl plank that's damaged, you need to replace, you came to the right place. Now if you have a tongue and groove locking system on your vinyl plank, this is the video you're going to want to watch. If your plank was a drop and lock where you have to use a rubber mallet to pound in that cross joint or that butt joint, that smaller joint on the plank, to get that plank to lock in, you use a rubber mallet to pound it down. That's a little bit different situation. So click on this link above to watch the video that's meant for that type of vinyl plank. Welcome to So That's How You Do That. I'm Joe Latender. Let's get started. Okay, so I have blue tape around this, and the only reason why I put blue tape on here is so you can see which plank I'm replacing. Obviously, you can see we have a damaged piece here. Now I'm going to take another plank. I want to cut a channel out of this, so I'm just going to draw with a marker using this plank as a guide and just mark this channel that I want to cut. It's just a guide. Okay, so I'm going to use a circular saw to cut this. So what I want to do is I want to adjust the depth now of this saw. I don't want to go through this, or I want to go through the plank, but I don't want to go into the floor. If you skim it a little bit on a wood subfloor, it's not a big deal. If you have concrete, you don't want to wreck your blade. Okay, so you can see I cut through it, but not quite all the way, which is how I want it. Because now I'm not cutting into the subfloor, and I'll just use my utility knife to finish it off. And you can see right here, I didn't hit it with the saw at all. That was actually a mark I made with my utility blade. Okay, so this is a tongue and groove plank. The difference between this and the drop and lock is this tongue right here, if this was the end of the plank, which I just cut off, this is what goes into here. And how you put it in is you stick the tongue in and then you press down, or you bring the plank down, and then it's locked into place. With the drop and lock, you just lay this plank in place and then you'll hit it with a rubber mallet. And I have another video that shows you how to do that. So this is a tongue and groove vinyl plank replacement. Now I'm going to take my circular saw and I'm going to start cutting this. You can see how close I got to the edge here. I'm going to finish that off with an oscillating saw. See how close I got to the edge there? Now I'll finish that with the oscillating saw too. Now this doesn't really get dusty, but it's in the air, but it will throw a bunch of shavings around, so be prepared for that. Okay, so now to finish this, so I can pop this middle out, I'm going to use my utility knife at first, and I'm just going to score this. So now you can see the middle is broke away, but I need to finish cutting the end now. Now I'm using an oscillating saw here, and I have a bimetal blade on here. That's just what I like to use for cutting jams and stuff. Now I got real close there. I went nice and slow. You just want to make sure you don't go too past the joint. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to start pulling this middle piece out. So we're going to lift it up, and then down here, I'm going to be really careful. I'm going to keep my hand underneath this, and I'm going to just start wiggling it out. And you can see how it snapped right there. Now that was the tongue side. Now let's come down here and we'll do the same thing. I'm not gonna try to bring it up too far. I'm just gonna keep it down nice and low and just wiggle and let it break out. Okay, so we got the middle out. Now we're gonna grab underneath here and we're gonna start working this out of the joint. I'm just wiggling while I'm pulling. Now I got my hand under. This is the groove side, so it's coming out a little more hard. It's a little stiffer, but right here I'm gonna start working this out. You can see how I pop that out. Now this side is gonna pop right out. See how that came right out? And now we'll do the same thing for this. This one's gonna be the easier one to get out. You can see how that popped out. Now let's go down to the other side down here. We'll work this out. That popped right out. Now I want to go through and just make sure there's nothing inside the joint. We're going to clean this up with the vacuum real quick. Down here where the groove went under, I want to make sure I don't have any of that groove left in there. You can see it's all clean. Now take a look here. I never hit with my circular saw. That was all with my knife, those marks. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. Now I want you to beware that if you have a very delicate locking system, you are gonna not only wanna take this groove off, you're also gonna wanna take your tongue off. Now the reason why I don't like to take the tongue off is because the tongue, when it's on, it will let the plank sit in there properly and you won't have any kind of ridge when you run your hand across it. And when I'm talking about as far as delicate goes, here's a plank that I want to share an example with you. So this is the groove part right here. If you can shove something in there real easy and bend this up, this edge, this lip, chances are you might damage this while you're trying to replace the plank. And the last thing you want to do is damage another plank around the plank that you're trying to replace. So test this. If this is really weak, then I would suggest that you cut the lip or the tongue off and all of the grooves. You can leave this tongue on, but you'll have to take the long one off. Now the easiest way to take the tongue off is a table saw. But I will show you, you can use a utility knife and just run your utility knife at an angle right along the edge and just go slow and keep going over it and score it. You want to kind of angle your knife in a little bit. Now I'm not going to cut the tongue off of this one because I want to leave it on. But I'm going to show you how to cut this groove. So take your knife and just run it in at angles. All I am is just sticking my knife inside that groove and it's at an angle. Now I'm just going nice and slow, putting a little pressure on, but not much. I'm just gonna try to cut through it a couple of times to get it to cut off. Now some of these you might only need once, some of them you might need twice, sometimes you might need to go 3 times. It depends on how good, how durable your locking system is. And this one is cutting off pretty easily with just 2 scores. You can see how I took that off. Now I want to show you what this looks like here. You can see, so this is the front of the plank, so I cut in at a bevel, so the plank is beveled in. Now I want to do the same thing to this groove right here. So I'm just going to take it at an angle and just cut across it. It's only going to take 2 times with this plank and it comes right off. This is clear Gorilla Glue. This is what we're going to use to glue some of this plank back into place. Now you want to use clear Gorilla Glue, not white, not the normal Gorilla Glue. Get the clear because it won't foam. Okay, the other ones will. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to put a bead of glue along this area where we just cut because this needs to be glued to the tongue. So I'm just going to put a small little bead of Gorilla Glue on here. First I need to wet it with my wet cloth because that's what activates Gorilla Glue. Now I'm going to run a bead along this whole thing. Now don't worry about getting messy. If you have some Denatured alcohol or mineral spirits, that's what cleans this off. So it's gonna get a little messy, just don't worry about it. Now I wanna do the same thing to the other side that I cut off. So I'll get that wet, and now I'll run my bead of Gorilla Glue along that. Okay, so now I want to take the tongue on both sides and I want to start getting the tongue in. Now I need to put it in this part first so you can see how I did that. Now I'm going to start sliding it that way so you can see I locked there and partially there. Now I'm going to continue to come down and put the rest of this in. Now one thing I didn't do before I did this is I needed to get this joint, this tongue wet, where the Gorilla Glue is going to stick. So sorry about that. I'm going to do that first. Now let's try this again. I'll stick it in right there, then I'll slide it forward to get it locked in right there. Okay, now I'm going to start coming forward and start locking in the rest of this tongue. See how I'm getting all the way? It's folding, it's just plopping down now. See how that's working? Now I want to get this completely in.
I don't think so.
Okay. Now I'm just pressing down and it popped right into place. Now if it doesn't go in that easy, you can use a rubber mallet to pop this in. And you can see it's kind of just sitting there right now, popping up. What we want to do is put weight down on this now so that the glue activates, and then once the glue dries, then we can take the weight off and it will stay stuck down. Now I've got some denatured alcohol. I'm going to go through, wipe this all down, get it nice and clean, and then I'm going to stick some weight over it, and we should be good to go. And that's how you replace a tongue and groove vinyl plank. So what you can use to clean that Gorilla Glue off is this denatured alcohol. You can use Goof Off, mineral spirits. This is my favorite to use. You can find it in the paint department at any of the home improvement stores or hardware stores. So you can see it's not too hard to replace a plank. Just be sure you do that test to make sure that you can see how delicate your locking system is on that plank. You have to really work. That one bent really easy, and that's what I want to show you. If you have to work a little bit hard to get that to break or to bend up, then you should be good to go to leave the tongue on. That's the preferred method, in my opinion, to keep the most strength in the plank and not have a little bit of a ridge there that you can feel or see once you replace that plank. Hey, I just want to thank you for watching this video. Hit the subscribe button, the like button. Check out my channel. There's lots of great videos on here. And you are watching, so that's how you do that. Again, I'm Joel the Tender. I'll see you in the next video.